If you struggle with dropping your hands when you swing, resulting in a ton of pop-ups and a lot of weak rollover ground balls, then you're gonna wanna watch this video. Dropping your hands is a huge issue with a lot of kids, especially the younger kids. So I'm gonna give you 6 drills that are gonna help you fix it, so make sure to stick around. Now before we get into the video, if you guys are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. So let's talk about your hands and where they're supposed to be when we swing. So when you're in your batting stance, realistically, you can start wherever you want, whatever is comfortable for you, as long as they get into the right position at launch position. So basically launch position is where we are when our heel hits the ground. Okay, so we're in our batting stance, we're gonna load, we're gonna stride. Once that heel hits the ground, now we're in launch position. So a couple things that we look for when we're in launch position. I've done a ton of videos on this, so I'll link them below. But we wanna make sure that our head is in the middle of our body, our front foot is slightly open. And with our hands, we wanna make sure that our hands are just in front of our shoulder. With our hands, our elbow and our shoulder level with the ground, about shoulder height, with the knob of the bat facing the catcher. Now, if you look at any MLB player, this is a commonality that you'll see with every player, however they start, whether they start like this. Once they load and they stride, once they get to heel strike and into launch position, everybody's pretty much the same. Now this might be a little bit different, but this is pretty much what it looks like for everybody. Now the problem you see with a lot of kids is as they're loading, they're gonna start to drop their hands so that when they get to launch position or heel strike, their hands are way down here. So like I mentioned before, you can start however you want as long as you get into the right launch position. But for me, for us, for our guys, we like to get everybody to start with their hands already in that position. So we get everybody get into their batting stance and already have their hands in front of their shoulder, hands, elbow, shoulder, level with the ground with the knob of the bat facing the catcher. Because the least amount of movement, the better. So when you load, it's literally just a coil of the hip and a stride and you're already in launch position. Whereas if you get kids who start up here or down here, usually they're not gonna get to launch position. So we get everybody to start with their feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart and their hands up here. So for the first drill, all we're gonna do is we're gonna get the players to start off already in launch position. So usually in launch position, we wanna make sure that our stride is about the size of our bat or the size of our inseam. That's just a general rule of thumb. So we're gonna line up the tee with our front foot slightly open, head in the middle of our body, hands, elbow, shoulder, about shoulder height, level with the ground, knob of the bat facing the catcher. Now that's our launch position. We want to get them to start here. Now you can either give them a cue to swing or they're just going to swing on their own, but they're just going to swing from here. Now for a lot of the younger kids, you're going to notice when you tell them to go, they're going to want to load again, but you got to remind them that we've already gone through our load, we've already gone through our stride, now we're just going to react. So the next drill is a lot like the last one, but we're going to add the load. So we're going to get into our batting stance, we're going to load, we're going to stride to launch position, pause at launch position, reload, and then swing. So it looks like this. Our batting stance, we're going to load, we're going to pause, we're going to make sure that they're in the correct launch position, get them to check their feet, get them to check their hands, and then go straight into the load and swing. Now the next drill is going to be the high tee. Now when we swing, we always want to make sure that our hands are above the baseball. Now you might have heard your coaches say, get on top of the ball. Now that doesn't mean hit the top of the ball. That's going to result in a lot of ground balls. But what they mean by that is they want to make sure that your hands are always above the baseball. Okay, so on pitches that are up high, you want to make sure that your hands stay above the ball. You don't want to come below it. So we're going to set the tee nice and high and we're going to get them to try to hit this ball on the ground. Now obviously we don't want to hit the ball on the ground, but for this drill, that's what we want to do. It's going to force them to keep their hands above the ball to try to hit the ball on the ground. So we're looking for a nice line drive or a ball on the ground. Now one thing you got to remember when you're hitting a baseball is you want to come at the ball at a slight upward angle. Okay, but we achieve that not by dropping our hands and swing up. We achieve that by proper posture and proper tilt. So what that looks like is we want to have our chest kind of just above our toes, leaning a little bit forward. And as we turn, we want to keep this angle of our spine and of our shoulders like this. And that's what's going to give us that slight upward angle through the ball. We don't need to come down and swing up. Just make sure you have the proper tilt and posture. So we come through, front arm works up, back arm works down. We're going to come through the zone at a slight upward angle like that. Extension. Now for this drill, we're going to need 2 tees. So we're going to put this tee about belt high and this tee about mid thigh. Now like I said, we want to make sure that we do come through at a slight upward angle. But if we drop our hands and come down like that, that's incorrect. So for the goal for this drill is just to swing and not hit this back tee. Now for the next drill, we're going to need a band and we're going to put it over our front foot like this. You can use any kind of band. I'm just using this kind. You can use a J band or whatever. But we're going to grab it with our left hand under our right foot. Okay, we're gonna get into our batting stance, and we're just gonna load and pause at launch position, making sure that our hands stay up. Now it's gonna wanna pull us down. We're just gonna make sure that we force it to keep it up. Now, there's a difference between keeping your hands up and barring your arm like that. I've done a ton of videos about arm bar and how we don't wanna do it, so I'll link those below as well. But we wanna make sure that we load and we just keep our hands here, okay? We wanna keep this shape of our arm through our load and through our turn. So we're gonna grab the band, we're gonna load, we're gonna pause the launch position, we're gonna let go of the band, and we're gonna swing. So it looks like this. Load, pause, drop the band, load, swing. Now for the last drill, we're gonna get the players to start with their hands down by their hip. Now, obviously this isn't how we want them to swing, but they're gonna go through their load, and as they load, they're gonna bring their hands up, and then they're gonna swing. This is gonna force them to make sure that they get their hands up, and by the time they get to heel strike, their hands are already up and they can just swing. It looks like this. Get them to start with their hands nice and low, load, bring it up, and swing. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button below and share this with somebody who you know drops their hand. And if you guys haven't checked out our podcast yet, I'm gonna link those below. It's called the Barrel Up Podcast. Last guest was Chase Darnell, who's an ex-MLB player. We've had a ton of awesome guests, so make sure to go check it out.